15 of you, what up? Welcome to Tuesday, December 26th. It is currently 1:11 p.m. in New York City, and I am going to clean some kale and cook some vegetables. I ate way too many crackers yesterday, so today we're gonna cook some vegetables so that it's in the fridge for me for a couple of days so that, I can eat my vegetables. I did not go anywhere yesterday after the live. I just kind of sat home, watched a couple of movies, and did some reading on attachment styles and watched some YouTube videos on attachment styles. What up, Greece? What up, Wisconsin? And hi, Washington. Happy Boxing Day to all of you in UK, I think. But also, boycott Boxing Day. Don't buy shit. What was I saying? Yes. Plot twist. Based on yesterday's feverish 6 hours of video viewing, note taking, and reading, might not have anxious attachment after all. Hi, Iowa. Hi, Wisconsin. Working from home, wish I had the vacation time to take this week off. Yeah, I don't have to work this week, which is why I'm going live way more often this week. We have taken this week between Christmas and New Year's off for Burlap and Barrel. What up, Winnipeg? What up, UK? I'm still sick. I feel slightly better. I think I need to rest a little bit more, so all good advice. We're gonna take it one day at a time. The protest yesterday in Midtown seemed astoundingly large. My new friend who went said he was so pleasantly surprised by the turnout. People are still turning out for Palestine. There are still actions ongoing. People are doing their learnings in private, in groups. There's still a lot of education to be done for all of us, for me especially, someone who has no background in politics and history and geography and all that shit. And I think we just keep on keeping on. What up, Denmark? Amsterdam? Yeah. We made the yogurt yesterday and it was very loose. I don't know if I'm making the yogurt wrong or if I'm just very impatient, but 12 hours in the Instapot, it was very loose. So I put some coffee filters on top of a strainer, and I strained out all the whey. I placed it overnight in the oven with the light on so that it remains at a juicily warm temperature, and the whey is currently being strained, and it's gonna really basically be labneh, which is so delicious. It's like ultra strained yogurt. And yeah, I look forward to jarring this up and using this to wash our kale. Happy to chat with everybody. Gotten a lot of feedback from both YouTube metrics and comments. Continuously, lots of people who are saying that, their mental health is better when they don't pay attention to the news. And I agree. It is really, really nice to take a break from the news. It is really, really nice to not be aware of all the awful shit that goes on in the world. But I also think that we need to kind of start vaccinating ourselves with bits of information and begin to understand that this is essential for us to not continue progressing in the direction that we're in. So, take it at your own pace. But I, after this year, do not believe that our prescribed self-care routines of, therapy and breaks from social media are the end-all be-all solution. I think, when we talk about resistance, when we talk about showing up for Palestine, when we talk about showing up for any cause that we believe in, a diversity of tactics is always healthy. We need solidarity on certain fronts that we're trying to push. We're trying to make effects happen so that change happens. But we also need, at the same time, concurrently, multiple tactics, multiple strategies, multiple genres and art forms and mobilizations to stay engaged. Not everyone can engage in all the things. So I went through a period where I felt super guilty for not being able to engage as much as I wanted to, because I too am born under the system of capitalism where we want everything to be fast, immediate, effectual now. But a lot of things take time. Remember that Palestine has been resisting for 7.5 decades. It's been 2.5, almost 3 months of this genocide. It is really hard to watch, but this is just, it's impactful, it's damaging, it's obviously a huge violation of humanity, but time-wise, this is a sliver of the entire movement. And I think we just have to keep that in mind, especially given what we read in Religion and Nothingness, and I understand this is just theory and philosophy, and it's not reality, it's not material circumstances, but I do feel like there is, again, diversity of tactics, diversity of thought, diversity of exchange, of being fluid with what the moment calls for. I think it is important for me to take a break from the news cycle if I feel myself worn down, and it's necessary for me to take a break and not attend protests if my body is failing. But it is also necessary for me to continue thinking about these topics from other standpoints through other mediums of learning, and we are not going to change the world in a year. We're not going to change the world in 5 years. We might start seeing shifts in the world in 10 years, but that's a baby change. A lot of movements will take decades, centuries even. I mean, capitalism has been in development for centuries. So it's going to take time to wean us off of this toxic milk that we have been raised on. And not all of it is toxic, because obviously it still sustains us. I'm not saying capitalism is bad. I'm just saying at this particular late stage capitalism, it's become absurd. Like, literally the definition of absurdity is just nonsense. And we see that with a lot of the propaganda coming out of the Israeli state. I just saw a post about how, you know, like, we can't support Hamas kids. I don't even know who Hamas kids are, but, you know, the villainization of all Palestinians, the kind of conflation of all people with a so-called terrorist organization, there is nuance. It is not just about the struggle, scare quotes all around, between Israel and Palestine. The nuance is within the factions of resistance too. There is so much history to be learned, and people can't intake it all because it is a lot of information, and it is overwhelming, and it is mentally taxing. So people would rather prefer just black and white analysis of things, which is why, yeah, at the beginning of all of this, starting in October, because I was ignorant, I still am ignorant, I am trying to become less ignorant, I was very reactionary. I was very, you know, reactive to, wow, that's wrong, we gotta do what's right. Yes, you head in that direction, and once you go in that direction, you start seeing more things appear on the horizon. You start seeing more information, you start seeing more details. There are more landmarks and institutions that appear as you approach the destination. You might not ever approach that destination in your lifetime, but that does not mean that you stay where you are, because where you are is probably making you really fucking miserable anyway. So if you just want to stay where you are and protect yourself, I understand. A lot of people are choosing to do that because our society has taught us to do that, because that is conducive to propagating capitalism. But if we really are trying to resist, we have to kind of resist within ourselves too. And that's hard. It's gonna take time. We have to be patient. And, you know, I'm learning that as I research attachment theories too. Completely unrelated, but is it? The kind of conditions that we grew up in, attachment styles, apparently, the theory is, it's not truth, it's just a theory, is that your attachment styles form between the ages of 2 and 3. I don't even have memories until after the age of 3. So attachment styles formed way before I was even cognizant of what was happening. And that has to deal with, how your caretakers responded to your cries for help, your cries for fulfilling your needs, when you were a baby, basically. And now as an adult, we have the agency to go and research and read and discover, oh yeah, I do all of these things. That's pretty fucked. Maybe I could consider not doing those things anymore, or do less of them and be more aware of what I'm doing as I'm doing it. It's gonna take time. Like, I broke down crying the past few days as I was reading on these attachment theories, because it's really hard to take in the fact that, oh, I'm not always right, right? Like, I can be so wrong. I can be embodying toxic traits, and I can be treating people poorly around me, especially people that I love, because I haven't been able to see outside of myself the dynamics that I've been put into and the way that I chemically react in those conditions. And so, like, I kind of just like sat in front of my computer, typed down my notes, wrote down my notes, and then just like kind of sobbed in between, because I was just like, oh wow, like, it sucks to be this person. And it sucks that I realized that, yeah, I am responsible for a lot of the things that happen in my relationships. And it sucks that I can't be a better partner. And it sucks that that means that I can't find the love that I want because I don't really feel secure within myself yet. And so there's work to be done, right? Same thing with political movements. There's so much work to be done. Like the way we are on payroll, the way that we are indoctrinated to think higher up on the hierarchy is better, higher pay is better, more savings is better, more investments is better, it's safe, it's secure, it guarantees your retirement, and all of that is involved in the system of investment in things that are causing our pain. So like a circular feeding of our own pain into our own joy. And it's this kind of sadomasochism that has occurred in our society that makes it so hard for us to pull out of this toxic cycle. Because it feeds us, right? So I actually think that I might be a fearful avoidant attacher, which is kind of like the best and worst of both worlds. And I'm trying to learn more about it because I was like going through the checklist of 10 signs that you might be fearful avoidant, and I'm like, oh, why does this feel more aligned with my actions than anxious attachment does? So anyway, yogurt, let's jar that up first. Thank you for listening to my 14-minute rant. I've also been learning since college that I have stress stomach aches, but I only related it to writing papers that I didn't want to write and felt really stressed and pressured on outputting by a certain deadline. I'm now realizing that a lot of social interactions give me stomach aches, and they're like debilitating stomach aches, and I brought this up with my therapist, and I'm trying to work on it. But you basically have to make a mind-body connection of like realizing cognitively, oh, I have a stomach ache going on. Could it be something that I ate, or could it be that there is a psychological trigger that just happened that made my stomach churn to the point where it kind of feels like someone's jabbing a bloated knife into my gut about every 2 seconds. And just trying to, like he said, to locate the pain. He said to, it might help if you put a hand on it, just to kind of make that connection that, oh, this is happening. And that, like, and this sounds so woozy, but, like, speak to it. Like, kind of approach it from the standpoint of, I am a stranger to myself. I'm not fully aware of what's triggering me. Let's find out. Let's investigate. Let's talk, and let's discuss what we can do to calm ourselves down. So, I haven't seen my dad in years. He's coming to New York City tomorrow to see me. And remember, in these years my mom has passed away, there's been a lot of life changes. I thought it was just going to be him. Turns out it was going to be him and my uncle, and maybe a couple of other people. And I just learned this today. And I was like, first of all, Dad, I'm still sick. So if you're inviting other people, they better all know that I'm still sick so that, I'm not disinviting them. But I'm also letting you know that it would be fair to all parties involved if you let them know that I'm still sick, because I don't know what I have, and I ask that everybody come masked. We can go out to eat, but I asked everybody to know that I'm sick. And I also told him that, I would really appreciate it if you could tell me all the details up front instead of the day before, because I already have trust issues with you. So it would really, 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 really make me feel more secure if you let me know the whole story as much as you can in advance. And so now I'm stressed about my house looking like a mess, because it's fine if it's just my dad, whatever, right? But if it's also my uncle, and there's a whole Chinese decorum of when guests come to your home, you have to prepare, drinks, food, hospitality sort of things, and that triggers my guilt of oh, I'm sick, I don't have the time to go shopping, I now have to clean the house. That triggered a whole cycle of just tense feelings, and now I have a stomach ache, and it's been going for 90 minutes, and I recognize it, and actually recognizing it did not make it go away, but it kept it from getting worse. And I'm just trying to communicate with my dad, and keep in mind, not only is there a generational gap, there's a cultural gap, there's a language gap. I can type in Chinese, but some things just don't translate that way, especially with a cultural lens on it, right? So I'm trying to tell him hey, I just want to be completely blunt with you. I ask that you try to be as transparent with me as possible too. I'm not asking you to disinvite everyone. I'm simply asking you to tell them that I'm sick so they can make their own choice about whether or not they want to come. Because I think that that's the fair and honest way to go about something, especially when it's wintertime and everybody is getting sick. And I also asked him to make sure that my uncle doesn't fight over the restaurant bill with me, because Chinese people do that, and that is stressy. I don't need that show. I'm perfectly fine paying for the whole meal if we can just keep it, low chill vibes, because I don't need this shit. So I'm trying to tell my dad, who I haven't seen in years, all of this. I'm trying to keep my peace, as the kids say, and it's hard because I'm already emotionally heightened. I'm already physically distressed and worn, and it's hard, right? But learning about yourself, learning about the world can be painful, but it does end up letting you know, hey, there are ways to cope with this. And you can still try to communicate constantly your needs. It's not just that calling up your reps will make them have a change of heart and go, oh, you're right, I shouldn't be taking money from APAC. And I'm so sorry for having, assisted a genocide happening. But the mere fact of you calling them is a practice for yourself of staying engaged in the learning process. And it's maybe 2 months down the line that you're what the fuck? Phone calls? Do they actually do anything? Maybe. Is it worth my time? Maybe. Can my time be used in other actions that are a little bit more impactful? Maybe. And that's a personal choice. And that's a personal learning path. But all that I'm asking all of us, myself included, and everything that I say on these lives, I say to myself first and foremost, right? I am literally just a crazy lady on the internet talking to herself. But stay engaged. This is what living is. It's about learning, it's about making mistakes, and it's about reframing those mistakes as steps of learning. So I hope that doing all of this is a learning process for you, for me. It has been. I pushed myself, and I knew I was pushing myself, and I knew I was burning out, and I got sick. And now I'm still sick. And that leads to frustration of not being able to attend protests. But it's all a trade-off. No choice is a wrong choice. But if you don't make a choice, that's opting out of life in a way. So take the time that you need to heal on your own, but maybe also think about what it means to consume the news in a way that is just not letting it soak completely into you, but informing your decision on how to live in life for as long as you're alive, because we don't know when we are gonna die. I just hope that all of us can die with as few regrets as possible. So that's it. That was another 7 minutes of rant, sorry. And I've decided that I will give the apartment a superficial clean, but people or no people, dad and uncle and whoever else ends up showing up, they're just gonna have to deal with it. I'm going to apologize and, you know, for not being a great host, but then I'm gonna hopefully take them out to lunch somewhere and we can all just eat outside of my space, because this is my space. I'm American now. I claim this space. I'm a colonizer of my own apartment. But yeah, there are some times that you just need boundaries, because you check in with yourself and you realize, hey, I don't have the emotional space or the physical energy to deal with this turn of events, and that's okay. I think I can't satisfy everyone all the time, and I can't even satisfy myself all the time, so. Subs are down. I have been thinking about demonetizing this channel. Two purposes. One, so that, you know, the IDF can't put ads on my videos and other related entities that participate in the system. Two, to lower my income so that I can not participate as much in generating the system as much and pay less taxes. I'm thinking about it. YouTube isn't a huge part of my income, so it just, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. No decisions made yet, but thinking, you know, takes a while. Aw, 5 a.m., you missed my whole rant. Wah, wah, wah. I should form a church? I'm pretty sure that's a cult. But yeah, I'm down for a cult. Here's my homemade yogurt that was strained overnight. That's how thick it is. Doesn't even stick to my hand. Feels luxurious. Super tart. You'll use your ordained status to give you legitimacy? That's what I'm talking about. Community. Collective action, folks. Everyone has something to offer to the community. It's quite amazing to see it come together. And what you don't think might be a gift might just be exactly what that space needs. Do we like this ASMR? Okay, that is not true. You have so much to offer. First of all, y'all taught me so much about queer relationships and arrangements yesterday or the day before. I can't keep track of my days anymore, but everything is an offering. Yes, mediocre cookies also count. You never know who likes mediocre cookies. Just because you think they're mediocre doesn't mean everybody else thinks it. You know, when I was making budget eats and videos from home, Julia and I would always talk about topics and like what I can shoot by myself at home. And I'm like, Julia, I don't know why you're making me do a cooking show. I don't even feel like I'm a good cook. What is your definition of good? Someone once told me that, first of all, I had a huge crush on Alton Brown. He was so good at explaining the science of food chemistry. But someone once told me that his recipes don't actually taste good. And so you have chefs who are more educators, and you have chefs who are more tastemakers. You have chefs who are more community organizers in that they create restaurant spaces that pay their employees a great living wage and allow them to live the lives that they want more. You have chefs that come in every flavor and variety, and you need that because there is not one designated role for your title, for yourself, for your life. You just have to be open to exploring what it is that like motivates you to keep living, right? That to me is life affirming. Capitalism does a lot of things to negate life in that it keeps us from doing what feels good to us by telling us that what feels good to us actually isn't going to be good to us because it's abusing the system of control and power to say we can only give you these resources if you do this only. That's a death system. That's an enslavement system of sorts. I remember I was walking with Aaron in Brooklyn one day, and you know, we saw this homeless guy, and Aaron turned to me and he was just like, I forget his exact words, but it was kind of like mind-blowing what he said to me at that moment. He was just like, this system punishes you for not opting in. And most of us choose to not opt out because if we opt out, we are completely abandoned by all forms of security. There is nothing waiting for you if you don't participate in the system. I mean, that is tyranny in a lot of ways. But most of us maybe don't think about capitalism as tyranny because one, we're so used to it, and two, we like the lives that we have because we've been told to like consumerism above other forms of joy. And now we've become a one-trick pony of consumers where everything is filtered through the lens of consumerism. And I was just noting to a friend that like, I've been getting ads on Instagram for Palestinian olive oil. I've been getting ads on Instagram for kafiyas, you know, the scarf, the Palestinian scarf, the headscarf. And yeah, they're seen as symbols of resistance and liberation, but like we are also capitalizing off of it now. Everything gets subsumed in this system of make more, buy more, use more, to make more. There is no satiating the hunger here. So how do we safely opt out without losing all of our security nets is what we're contemplating. I ask us all to not tap out of this thought exercise because it's crucial. We have to be able to imagine an alternative before we can leave the current status quo. And that's, I think, where a lot of us are stuck. And I was talking with a friend who just earned his PhD in economics, and his thought specializes in political economics. And I was asking him like, hey, can you actually visualize a world that is not this capitalistic one? And he was like, yeah, I can. And I was like, you know what, I can't. And I think that's where a lot of people are, is that they can't see a world outside of our current system, and so they just give up because they're just like, this is my only option. There's no way we can have something different, right? That's where I feel like it does sound like a utopia to not have this structure. But if you can actually visualize an alternative, that's a goal. That's a direction, and that's something to work towards. And I guess if you can't see that direction, that visualization, then you have to befriend people who can visualize it so they can help you see. So much of America is so segregated, not just in terms of like race, but in terms of economic class. The way that we've structured, prioritizing roadways for cars and having very lackluster train and public transit systems, like that limits our ability to be mobile. Period. What if you can't have the money to upkeep a car? What if you can't afford to fly on an airplane? We prioritize all these individual markers of success, of owning a house, of owning a car, and in the same fell swoop of gaining those so-called successes, we also lose out on the opportunity of calling on others to help us so that we can provide to them things that they may need in return. Lacking that exchange of care is very detrimental, I think, to building community. And the more we isolate into individual success, the less we want to build community. Because why would we want to have community where the first thought is, well, I have to give something to be in that community, don't I? If you already have everything you need, supposedly. But do you have everything you need on your own? And those are the material realities. If you can't transport yourself elsewhere, if you can't get to a meeting that's going to organize people to have political power, then you don't have a chance to access that community. And the fewer people that join in a certain community, the less power that community has. So in all of these ways, our society has been constructed to isolate and alienate ourselves from other people and also from ourselves. To teach us what we want instead of letting us choose what we want. I'm not sure if all of us would want all these savings in the bank if we had other guarantees of like healthcare, communal housing, where it's not just like shelters where people steal stuff because they have no other choice because they literally don't have anything and they're forced to steal other people's shit. So, I don't know. I understand that this is all just talk right now, but I really am starting to see circles where people do put this into action. And a lot of it came out during the pandemic time and then quickly disappeared and receded into the background because we quote unquote went back to normal, right? Are we making some connections here about how capitalism works as a whole? Encouraging us to get better ASAP, encouraging us to be self-sufficient and self-reliant, encouraging us to be independent and, you know, a go-getter, girl boss, whatever. And this narrative of you can be all that you need. Yeah, I can if I only need like isolated misery from time to time that puts taboos on talking about how unhappy I am, and it's labeled as a mental disorder all the time. Some people do have mental illness and mental disorder. I probably do. But is all of my discontent a mental illness? Am I allowed to be human in being discontent? Can I be depressed without being pathologized? Is there maybe a such thing as communal depression? This yogurt is pretty good though. I was talking with Erin about this. I was like, okay, so I'm just connecting the dot here now. All of the money that I have in my IRA is being invested by other companies using that money to make more money. Money is abstract. It does not exist. My mom was actually so smart and intelligent and like fifth dimension about this when she said that money isn't money until it's used. All of the savings, all of the investments that I have, they're not used. They're not money. All they are ingredients for weaponizing power and control over all of us. So in a way, the more money I have in the bank, yeah, the more secure I might be in my retirement years, but also the more money that I have in the bank is all the more money that they're using to fund programs, fund policy, fund structures that are actually keeping me down. So like I am so complicit, not just in a genocide, but in my own oppression. Like that's a catch-22 of our time. How do I get myself out of this? I don't know. But I'm starting to think about it, and I'm also trying very hard to not give up thinking about it, to the point where it leads me to pathways where I'm just like, okay, this sounds stupid and counterintuitive, but what if I demonetize my YouTube? Like, what if I don't actually need this income stream? What does that do for my mentality? What does that do for my material reality? What does that do in terms of signaling to others that, like, maybe you don't need this money? I understand a lot of people around me are struggling financially, and they can't afford to extract themselves from this payment system that we have set up. But for those of us who can extract ourselves a little bit out of it, what is keeping us there? What is mentality there? And that's something that I'm thinking about. As I continue to eat yogurt off of my fingers. Change currency or escape capitalism with community. Yeah, or we can do a little bit of both, you know? Think about it this way. Capitalism has told us that the only investments worth having are monetary, because money apparently guarantees us financial security that we can exchange for housing, for whatever goods we want once we get old and are incapable of working. But what does investing in your community mean? It may be a less visible way, but it may also be a more visible way of investing, in that you don't see the numbers in your bank account going up and down, but you do maybe see material changes in your community. Not immediately, once again, be patient. And maybe not every community organization is trustworthy, but guess what? Neither is the stock market. That shit goes up and down all the time. Companies go bankrupt all the time. So this illusion of security and financial safety is also an illusion. Case in point, nothing in life is guaranteed. Everything is a gamble, but you choose what you try to win in. And if this system is not what you want to win in, just don't do anything, but start thinking and reading and digesting what actually aligns with you. And maybe we can all find ourselves a little bit. Today is 26, so I'm going to label all the yogurts with this date. So that was like 12 containers of milk, yielding 2.5 jars of yogurt, but nice and creamy yogurt. Listen guys, we've been talking about a commune for literally 2.5 years. I think it might happen one day. Right now, let's just make kale. But keep thinking about it. I love that we're thinking about it. I love that we're joking about it. I love that we're laughing about it. I love that we're crying about shit. Because that is life, is feeling all of these things. I think it's very triggering for me when people tell me to step back and like take care of myself, because I read that as, hey, stop feeling all these feelings that are truly unhandleable for you. Like you're visibly upset and I don't want to see that. So I want you to take a step back and relax and bring yourself back to baseline. But what if my way of bringing myself back to baseline over the long term is actually exposing myself to all of this turbulence so that I can taste the rainbow of sorts and see the skies? I don't know. There's a short-term benefit and there's a long-term benefit. They're not always mutually exclusive, but I feel like in our capitalistic system, we are often prioritizing this short-term gain versus a long-term change. And this short-term gain might be as short as our lifetime, but the long-term gain might be as long as generations onwards. And again, this comes back to like our individualistic focus on what's worth fighting for, what's worth us doing. Yeah, if your life only begins and ends with you, sure. But does it? And especially for people who chose to have kids, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, that's just like the angry part of me saying that. Like, honestly, I know that things must be really hard for parents, but also like, think about it, right? The way that you care for your kids, the way that you care for their futures, why have we stopped extending that care towards people who are not blood related to us? Where do we choose to end the community of care and share? All of these things. I've been thinking about so much of this, and it's very convoluted, and they're all together, and they're all very intricate, but I think it's fulfilling in a lot of ways for me to think about it. Is it masturbatory? Yes, I do think this is an intellectual masturbation of sorts, but I also think it's like a spiritual fulfillment of sorts too. Diversity of interpretations, always. Yeah, the kale is beautiful, and this bunch was only 75 cents. It's on sale this week for $1 a pound. I'm gonna try to eat my veggies so that I can buy more. because I haven't seen kale this cheap in like possibly a decade. It's not from the farmer's market. I missed the farmer's market this week because I wasn't feeling good, but yeah, 75 cents for this whole bunch. I can still make budget eats happen in this day and age, folks, believe it or not. I just don't have the energy right now to make a stupid food video. I want us to come together and formulate strategies for resistance so that I can have the time to go back to make a stupid food video. Because it does make me happy to make those. It's taxing, but it does make me happy. And I know that it makes a lot of you happy too. So this is kind of like the teacher going, we're gonna have a party as soon as you finish your homework. And I want you to enjoy the homework too. I have a lot of high expectations as a teacher. Not only do you have to complete the assignment, I want you to find joy in that thing. Because if it's not joyful, and if it's not meaningful, and if it's not purposeful, then it is not sustainable. So before we take any action, we have to first be convinced of why we're doing this. It can't just be for other people, it has to be for you. And maybe you'll also begin to see the ways in which you are not just you, that you may also be affected and afflicted by other people as well. And so in terms of taking care of yourself, it also means taking care of others. Because I think we all feel a little bit better when people around us aren't suffering. One of the things that made me want to quit New York and move out about 7 years ago was seeing just how much homelessness there was in the city. And I was working minimum wage myself, living with a Craigslist roommate who was supremely passive aggressive. And I was so unhappy. And I was just like, this sucks. This city sucks. And then I went elsewhere, and guess what? Homelessness exists everywhere. It's depressing everywhere. So yeah, it's taken me 7 or 8 years to realize that, like, maybe the best thing I can do for myself is to try to uplift everyone around me so that I can be uplifted with the entire movement of people. I would love to go to Montreal. I want to get a tattoo there. I want to eat those fucking bagels. I want to eat like 8 to 10 bagels while I'm there. I don't know if y'all have cream cheese. I'll bring my own fucking Philly cream cheese if you don't, but I want to go. I want to live to see the day when I eat a bagel in Montreal. Can we make that happen, please? Like, we are all depending on each other to live our best lives. It's not just one person living their best lives. I'd like to hear alternatives to communes, which I've seen and read about, fail and crumble due to small disputes stopping all forward progress. KCS, this is a problem in organizing too. Grassroots organizations that can't align with everyone, and so they splinter into factions and they all try to do their own thing. At a certain point, we have to get over ourselves. Like, we have to understand that we are trying to build an alternative that is not going to be perfect. It is not going to solve all of our problems, but it will get rid of, like, one bigger problem. And they're all incremental steps. We're just all trying to experiment and explore what is possible. Because I think a lot of us don't want to stay in what currently is. It's not that we're going to all succeed, but we need baseline respect. We need baseline acceptance. We need baseline respectful disagreement. We can disagree without canceling each other. We can disagree and have discussions about it. When we come out of them, we might not agree at all. We have to decide for ourselves if we can stomach certain disagreements in order for us to explore this choice together. Because unfortunately, some things just can't materialize until we have mass momentum and mass, affirmation in a lot of ways. And if people can't get over themselves, then yeah, that's gonna fail. So I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. That's a great question. That is possibly what, the mainstream argument for what is crippling America's political left is exactly that. They can't seem to get over their own minute politics, because we aim for perfectionism, and perfectionism is an idea like any other. It's not going to be reality. You don't understand what I mean by everyone. It's an idea too. Everyone is an idea. I obviously don't mean literally everyone. I don't even know all the countries that are out there in the world, I'm ignorant. There are limits to what I know. But I think the general idea is that we have to kind of expand our personal horizons of well-being to include more, so that we pull ourselves out of this microscopic view of what makes life worth living. I'm not there yet. I'm just floating this. Right now it's more theory than reality, but a lot of realities start off as theory. And sometimes they end up converging into the same timeline. It is possible for theory and reality to coexist without being one or the other simultaneously. All of the paradoxes of life make no sense, but also make all the sense because this is all the nonsense that we have to live off of. So, I'm fucking confused, y'all. So Jesse says, in cooperatives, conflict is a given. Successful ones require us to stick with it even when very difficult interpersonal conflict happens. 2 examples and responses that are probably tangentially, if not fully related to that comment is, I was recently talking with Liz, one of the organizers behind Hour of Action, about, different groups of people coming together to protest and different people trying to be more mobilized and maybe be more antagonistic against the police, or maybe just more reactive when the police initiate antagonization, which is more likely the case usually. And they said that, even if we don't agree with the other person's choice of action, our ultimate goal is to keep each other safe. And in that scenario, you have me, you have the other protester that I don't fully agree with, and you have the cops. The cops are gonna get violent. They're gonna abuse their power and punish that person that you don't agree with, and possibly you too. Because in the cops' perspective, you and that protester are in the same camp of people. So in that scenario, what benefits you to support? You support the other protester because you're keeping them safe, because you keep yourself safe by keeping them safe. That's what solidarity means. You may not agree with their actions, but in that case, the choice is never to support the cops. The cops are not going to support you. The cops look upon you as oppositional to them. Second example is interpersonal conflicts in relationships. I want a perfect relationship where I don't have fights with my partner. I want my partner to understand me and know me fully and still love me despite all of the toxic traits that I may still inhabit, and all of my flaws and all of my annoying habits. That's not going to happen. In a relationship, you will have disagreements, you will have maybe fundamental perspective incompatibilities. And so it's always a play-by-play checking in with yourself and also with your partner, if you truly love them, to say, hey, I see this is happening. What do you want to do? What feels good for you? Here's what feels good to me. Can we meet somewhere in the middle? And if we can't, who is going to take a back seat and let the other person be more fulfilled than they are, because their greater vision is to stay in a partnership with this person? If we hold on to the idea of fairy tale endings, we're never going to have a partner. So it's up to you to be self-aware of what you want, what your boundaries are, what you must have fulfilled in a relationship that is non-negotiable for you, and then to be honest with yourself in assessing the other person and in assessing this dynamic to say, okay, I can just let go of these particular things that I want because I love this person enough and I want to learn more about them and continue in the relationship. Or there is a fundamental difference here that I cannot stomach. This just won't work for me, so I have to call it. None of those are ideal. One may be more preferable than the other in any given dynamic. But what it requires is for you to know yourself and be honest with yourself. First, no happiness can come about from blind bumbling. Just because you're following a roadmap that society has given you. So it's hard, right? Especially if we weren't told or taught how to check in with ourselves, how to prioritize our needs, how to identify our needs. There's a lot of learning to be done, which is why in organizing, the first step is always education. You have to be educated before you can come up with a strategy and a game plan. If you don't know the history and the details of what succeeded and what failed in the past, then your game plan is going to be very limited in terms of its scope of analyzing a tree of possibility. You're going to get stuck and then you're going to give up. So education is always the foundation of power, which is why our education system sucks. It's the first way to disempower us. I look different? Oh, I'm sorry. There's this thing called age and depression and weight fluctuation and angles and lighting and hair too, and colors. Reality is not reliable. It is always open to negotiation and interpretation. Good or bad, change. I don't really have control over the fundamental changes that happen, so I did not take your comment in a bad way. Yeah, I remember my mom getting white hairs, like along her hairline, and plucking them almost like obsessively. I'm never gonna do that, I hope. I can't say never because I don't know what my future self will do, but I hope I don't. I hope that I love the ways in which I experience change because that's the only way that I see living this life as peacefully as I can. Can we help some blind bumbling? Knowing things and study can help, but that sounds like so much. Yes, it is a lot. It requires time and energy and devotion that a lot of people currently can't have under the system that works us to our limits for barely livable wage. I understand. I feel head in the sand, new perspectives also matter. That's why we do things like Hour of Action. You know, I don't post about it every day because I don't even connect with the material every day, but Hour of Action is crowdfunded and crowdsourced. So if you have a topic that you want to learn more about, you can write into Hour of Action, or you can DM me on Instagram and tell me about what you want us to feature on an Hour of Action, which changes almost daily depending on how much funds we have because the two organizers that do the heavy lifting
kind of have to do it full time, and you know, they also have to pay their rent and stuff. But let us know what you want to learn, and the hour of action is, you know, a checklist of things that you can do within an hour a day, and that doesn't mean you have to commit to a full hour. You can just do 5 minutes. Even doing 5 minutes will start to change the way you think about and frame some things.
Yeah, I noticed that I look different. I mean, the camera cut me off. There's like this bang going. I think my hairline is actually receding a little bit, probably with age. I think I've been having some hair loss, probably with stress, maybe with illness. I don't know. I could be dying. I mean, I certainly am always in the process of dying, but there might be something more at play. I don't know yet. I said I'm sorry mostly out of reflex and some sort of confused humor, I think, and also probably a little bit tinged with self-disappointment in change, because I am also resistant to change. That's where my mental process went when I gave that feedback. Hour of action is, check it out. I've linked to it before in the community posts. But if you type in tinyurl.com/hour of action, it'll take you to a page. There's an archive of educational materials all about Palestine, all about resistance movements. There's actionable items. If you feel like calling up your reps, there's ways to call up your reps. If you feel like signing petitions, there's petitions. If you feel like joining protests, there's a map of in-person events that you could attend. We're mostly focused in the US and Canada and UK and sometimes Mexico, if Mexico pops up, because that's where the bulk of the viewership is currently at. There's also a Google Calendar that has virtual events, that includes teach-ins, that includes, you know, meetings, power hours, just various things that can give you a step into learning more, taking action if you feel ready for that, and spreading the word to your friends in an easy way. And if you feel like throwing a couple of dollars, throw a couple of dollars. There are certain fees associated with maintaining a website. There's also certain security measures that we've put in place, because the Google map is crowd aggregated. It's run by volunteers. I'm one of them that works on the map. And it's linked to our Google account. So we don't want hackers to like immediately be able to find us through the interface like that. So we you know, pay for some services that give us an extra layer of protection, but you know, who knows? If they really want to hack us, they'll hack us. There are always risks for being in the resistance, but the biggest risk is not resisting, because eventually you'll get consumed. You already are. We already constantly are being consumed. Gary, I deleted that link. If you could just post a tinyurl.com link, because that, we try not to share that link directly, because that actually poses a slight security risk. I'm not really tech. That's just what I've been told. Thank you so much for posting the link. I'm sorry for deleting the link, but I'm just trying to keep everyone who's volunteering on the team safe. Here, I'll type it in since I deleted it. Hour of action is pretty dang legit in a lot of ways, because we got banned from Instagram. You can no longer directly link the tinyurl link on your stories, and if you put in your profile, they shadow ban you, and if you try to DM it, the DM will not go through. If you want to test it out with a friend to prove me right or wrong, go for it. I don't recommend putting it in your profile unless you're ready to get shadow banned. But just so you know, censor state is real. Even an innocent site like this that just provides you with resources for education and resources for collective action will get banned. So
We have the badge of honor of being banned. Meta doesn't like resistance, and neither does Google. And if you look at your stock profiles, those are always in the top 5. Listen, Instagram is owned by the same company that owns Facebook, which is Meta. It's a private tech company. They have a lot of power. They have a lot of money. They can ban anyone they want. There is no freedom of speech on those platforms, no matter how much they say there is. So, you can't actually share the tinyurl link in DMs because Instagram will literally not allow you to send that message. You can try. If you succeed, let us know. But as far as I know, it doesn't actually let you send through that message. Luckily, it's actually quite easy to just remember tinyurl.com/hour of action. Nothing is spelled weird, so. Wait, Jesse, I don't know, why would we need to make more tiny URLs? We could just use that one, right? That goes straight to the redirect to the Notion. If you know something techie that I don't, please share. I'm like such a grandma when it comes to tech shit. If censor state starts to crack down on people's, I'm gone. That's for sure. Oh, to get past the ban. Yeah, you could, I guess. I just write tinyurl.com / and then hour of action on the next line. You just have to break it up. You just can't send it on one line. For sure, if you're more tech efficient, if you want to do that. You can try. I'm not sure if the filters will catch you. One additional fascinating thing is Instagram allows you to direct link to articles by Times of Israel, but it will not allow you to access direct links to Haaretz, which is also an Israeli publication, but it tends to, have a slightly more left-leaning coverage of events. Fascinating shit. Rehydrate the kale with nutritional yeast? Do you mean roast? Oh, dehydrate, yeah. Sorry, my brain is definitely going. I'm not going to roast the kale because I always end up burning the chips. And also when I make kale chips, I eat all of it and become very farty and bloated. So I'm going to saute the stems with an onion, and I'm going to put the rest of my lentils in there for my lunch today. I'm also defrosting some cooked black-eyed peas, and I'm going to stew it with the kale leaves. Maybe tomorrow. I'm trying to keep things simple and not overwhelming for myself lately. Yeah, it does sound close to the New Year's dish. Exactly. I thought about that. I'm not intending on that. I just tend to have black-eyed peas in the freezer, I guess. Oh, this onion is not great. Well, good thing we're cooking it today. I hope that you can't hear the music in the background. It's quite annoying. One of my neighbors keeps blasting this music. But hey, if we get demonetized, then I'm just gonna demonetize everything. That would be a good push for me. But also, my neighbors are mad disrespectful for playing music this loud. It sounds like audible through my closed window. Like, what if other people don't want to hear your music, bro? Normally I wouldn't mind. It's just very distracting in a live setting. Remember the last time we couldn't hear the music and then I ended up getting demonetized anyway? Womp 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 womp. Continuing to use this chili oil that I do not like. Also, the last time was such bullshit because that wasn't even the song. I googled the song that they demonetized me for, and it was definitely not the song in the video. It was such bullshit. But anyway, whatever. Yet another extension of capitalism. They must own everything, including neighborhood ambient noise from inconsiderate people playing music way too loud. Hi, Lydia. Hello, Denmark. Another Denmark. Copyright is bullshit. Bullshit. I'm also going to throw in a little bit of celery in here. Why not? I have it. I like to saute the tougher stems so that I don't have to chew through them raw. anybody identify as an avoidant attacher? I would love to hear your perspective if that's how you identify. You should just put the whole bunch in the stew. Cook it down, make some mirepoix, freeze the mirepoix, use it at a later time. Have a good time with your yard. Okay, so what would no copyright change? First of all, it would debilitate a lot of capitalistic ownership claims and ideas and structures. Like, the idea of intellectual property is very fascinating. It was a point of contention in our union contract when I was still at Hearst, because currently, you know, for something like Budget Eats, I don't own Budget Eats. I never got a single cent of ad revenue from any of those videos because that intellectual property belonged to Hearst and Hearst only. A lot of journalists would get their stuff edited and attributed to them, even though it was no longer in their words. And that had a lot of issues associated with it because, you know, if you're writing a very personal story and somebody edits your words and still attaches your name to it, like, those aren't your words, right? But if you are not the owner of that intellectual property, so to speak, then what power do you have to ask for any amendments? It's really fucked. Intellectual property, copyright laws, all of that. I'm sure that in the music industry, it's really fucked too, where artists probably don't own a lot of their rights, and a studio owns it instead. So in a lot of ways, we sign away ourselves as workers in order to get paid. We are selling parts of our existence and our identity and our lived experience in exchange for physical survival. It has always been this way since capitalism, and probably even before capitalism too, but definitely our current system of capitalism has normalized this to the extent where everybody's just like, well, of course they would own me. We're just capital's bitch now. Also, it's not AI taking your stuff. It's the companies that develop machine learning that's taking your stuff. AI is just another extension of the kind of modern day slavery systems that we have going on. There's real slavery, where they kill you for not participating in extractive labor. And then there's, you know, more distant slavery in the system that we have, where you're punished for not doing the jobs that are available, through various means of, you know, lack of payment, lack of health insurance, lack of basically any social guarantees of survival. So we're all indentured to some degree, some more than others, some abused more than others, some killed more than others. But in a way, I think we've all become used to being dead under capitalism. Whether that is a spiritual death or a physical death varies from case to case, and also not always mutually exclusive. If you are sick and you don't have money to pay for healthcare, that also becomes a spiritual death of sorts. Or it can, at least. Maybe not always, but it can. I was gonna make scallion oil, but not today, I'm tired. I have to start listening to my body more. Tomorrow. So maybe on Thursday we'll cook the black-eyed peas. I'll chop the remaining onion for now, and we'll bring it back when I'm ready to cook more. Trying to think of a political ecosystem that protects and fairly compensates for an individual's creative output. What if we stop thinking about fair compensation and just think of every output of creativity, material production as a contribution? I guess that would be more socialistic in a lot of ways. I'm not sure. Because what is fair compensation in a system that functions off of profit? Is that the ultimate fallacy? That fair compensation can exist? Like, who determines fair? I'm starting to think that working with the monster will never get you any place good. Unfortunately, the monsters are getting bigger and swallowing more. So everything is becoming the monster. But that still doesn't mean that I want to work with it. This goes back to kind of the idea of, you know, negotiating with yourself your boundaries in a relationship. What kind of relationship do you want to stay in? What can you tolerate? What kinds of compromises are you comfortable with? And what are non-negotiable boundaries that you can't forsake? Obviously, a change in circumstances will probably ask you to shift where your boundaries lie, but if you still have some degree of relative privilege, what do you choose? Because all of us are holding the line in our own ways. It's not like I'm expecting everyone to give up their YouTube revenue because, you know, like, not everyone's situation is the same as mine. But let's say that I do give up my YouTube revenue. That's just my way of holding the line. It might not make sense from any other one's perspective. It might not feel like it's doing anything. But a lot of things that we're doing doesn't feel like it's doing anything, does it? Music is back. It was so funny. Someone yesterday was playing like Honky Tonk Country and then back to back with Italian Josh Groban. So jarring. So delightfully New York. Right now I can't make out what the musical program is, but it's definitely getting louder. I think they might have heard me and they decided to piss me off more. That's fine. At a certain point, I just have to stop resisting against myself. What will be, will be. Not every decision has to be that important. Thank you, Ryan Nicole. Binge eating therapist on Instagram, but life advice is applicable across disciplines. My gosh, you must be able to hear that song, right? Yeah, they definitely turned it up. Alright. That's just the universe's way of telling me, yeah, girl, demonetize that shit. What if we start singing our own version of something? What should we sing? I wish I could sing. If I could sing, I would be so much more annoying on these lives. I would be singing to you constantly. Are the acoustics better here on the other side of the kitchen? Okay, I look forward to eating my very hot pot of mush. And I think I'm gonna go sit in front of my computer and cry a little bit more about my attachment styles and maybe log some more events for Hour of Action, and I'll see you guys, or not. In either case, get in touch with yourself. Treat yourself to some self-care that goes beyond the self, that goes into the greater self, that goes into the future. Peace. Peace to all. Bye.